This weekend's final battle capped off an odd year for Ring of Honor, one that started with the brand being essentially written off as dead, but found new life when AEW owner Tony Khan purchased it and gave it a temporary home and all-elite programming. With this last pay-per-view of 2022, Ring of Honor finds itself with weekly TV on its reanimated streaming service Honor Club, no doubt a last resort move from Khan, who had hoped to have some sort of licensing deal. We'll look at Final Battle and the future of Ring of Honor in this episode of Wrestle Juice. Hey friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the channel. So Ring of Honor's Final Battle, the last pay-per-view they're going to run in 2022, is in the books, and it's been a really weird, interesting year for Ring of Honor, which at this point is basically a 20-year-old brand that was dead at the end of 2021. If many of you recall, back in October, I think it was late October of 2021, it was announced that Sinclair was going to be basically shutting down Ring of Honor, and they were going to sort of reconfigure the business model of Ring of Honor and bring it back in April. That was the plan back in October or November of last year. By the time March came around, Tony Khan had purchased Ring of Honor, made a big to-do about it on AEW television. Later on, it came out that the asking price, or the sale price rather, for Ring of Honor ended up being around $4 million. So for a billionaire family, really not that much money. Perhaps for me, that would be a lot, but for Tony Khan, not that much money, considering the tape library itself is just 20 years of, content that they could eventually license out. That seemed to be the idea that Tony Khan had when he purchased Ring of Honor, given that AEW at the time especially was sort of firing on all cylinders. The idea being, hey, we've got a deal with Warner Discovery to be on TV. Things are going really well. Maybe they'll want some additional wrestling programming, and we can get either on HBO Max or maybe on one of the other channels within the Warner Discovery network. Well, that didn't happen. After lots of sort of almost announcements that we had heard of over the past couple of months, it was released. There was a press release from Ring of Honor saying that they're relaunching Honor Club at $10 a month, and there's going to be weekly TV there. And you saw the Final Battle card sort of shape out to reflect that as well. We're going to talk about Final Battle here in a couple seconds, but it's kind of interesting to see Ring of Honor go from basically a completely dead company to where it's at now, which is, I don't know, arguably not really in the same spot as it was before they shut down. If you recall, they had a pretty big deal with Sinclair. Sorry, I should rephrase. Sinclair owned Ring of Honor and therefore was running Ring of Honor programming on like a ton of stations around the country. Now Ring of Honor is still going to be not on TV and not on one of the popular streaming services out there like HBO Max or Netflix or Amazon Prime, but it's going to be on its own dedicated streaming service. Now, how lucrative will that be for Ring of Honor? I'm sure Tony Khan, with the pay-per-views alone, given the numbers that he's put out there, has probably maybe almost made some money back on it. I know he said the first one got around 40,000 pay-per-view buys, if I'm not mistaken. So according to Wrestling Observer, Death Before Dishonor back in July hit 36,000 buys on pay-per-view, which is like $1.2 million if they sold it for $35, which is what I think the price point was, unless it was $40. I don't know, whatever. They made a bunch of money off of it, and although who knows if he's actually made his money back on Ring of Honor, I feel like in the long run, it's probably going to make its money back and then a bunch more, especially if he's able to eventually get that TV deal. Now, we're all sort of asking ourselves, why couldn't he have scored a TV deal given that Warner Discovery has such a vast array of channels? Well, nobody really knows that. I'm sure that information might see the light of day at some point, but one could speculate fairly easily that it all boils down to what is going on at Warner Discovery. In short, that place is a mess. And in fact, one of the executives that Tony Khan originally talked to when the changeover from Warner's to Warner Discovery happened, Nancy Daniels, she's gone now. She left just recently. And you have to ask yourself, with all the sort of the turbulence there at Warner Discovery, is it possible that maybe there was a freeze put on deals like this? Or maybe with her being gone, Nancy Daniels being gone, that sort of made sure that no deal was going to happen for additional content. You know, not everybody is a fan of professional wrestling. The same thing happened to WCW back when the big AOL Time Warner merger happened. There was a guy who liked wrestling, and then he was gone, and then there was people there that didn't want wrestling, and then the WCW was gone, and then Vince McMahon bought it. Remember this? So it's entirely possible that all the upheaval there at Warner Discovery is the reason why Ring of Honor did not get a TV deal. Back when the merger first happened and Tony Khan had these conversations with these people, he described them as being exhilarating. Well, maybe there were not promises made, but maybe there were assurances made. Hey, you're doing such a good job with Dynamite. Yes, we'd love to have more of that type of thing. And that's why he puts the title on Jericho. That's why, he dedicated so much AEW programming to Ring of Honor. And now that sort of fell through, I don't know how much more Ring of Honor programming we're going to get on AEW. Certainly to keep people trying to buy the Ring of Honor Club subscription service. We're still going to be getting Ring of Honor footage, Ring of Honor storylines playing out on AEW TV, but it's probably going to be pared down quite a bit. So we'll see how that all works out for Tony Khan and Ring of Honor. And maybe once things settle down there at Warner Discovery, you'll see a TV deal get in place for Ring of Honor. No doubt that's probably his priority as it pertains to that brand. Exactly what's their weekly television going to look like, we don't know. I suspect they're probably going to bulk tape tapings the way similar to how NXT used to do. I think they used to do it on like a monthly basis there at Full Sail. So it wouldn't surprise me to see that. Now, we sort of want to ask ourselves, was this a good idea from a branding standpoint to have Ring of Honor the brand as opposed to AEW the brand? AEW traditionally has trended pretty well. This weekend, I noticed, according to Google Trends, that Final Battle didn't trend as much as high as NXT Deadline, which I thought was kind of interesting. Would it have been better for him to have taken another brand, just sort of made one up like NXT did with NXT? Because Ring of Honor at this point does have sort of a feel to it that it's kind of like AEW's second smaller not necessarily developmental, but second smaller brand, the way that NXT is to WWE, or at least how NXT Black and Gold was to WWE back in the day. This Ring of Honor Final Battle, same as Death Before Dishonor, they had sort of an NXT takeover feel to it. Maybe not necessarily with like the attention to match quality, but certainly length of the pay-per-view and just sort of the smaller feel of the show. So maybe that's what he's going for. And I'm not entirely sure that labeling it Ring of Honor as opposed to just a different division of AEW, maybe that would have been the way to go. I mean, we'll never know because it's, this is the universe in which he bought Ring of Honor. But anyways, let's talk about last Final Battle. Let's talk about Final Battle. It was a fun card. I actually pretty much enjoyed it. You just you get a bunch of really talented wrestlers and they're going to put on a really good show. The one thing that I did notice is that it was kind of clear that this show, the results for several of these matches, were booked in a way that it made sense that they didn't get a TV deal. Because we've all heard, for example, that the Briscoes aren't allowed to show up on TBS or TNT. However, they are allowed to show up on Honor Club because no doubt they're on that all over the place in the old footage. And what does Tony Khan care about TNT or TBS? And so FTR ended up dropping the titles to the Briscoes in a terrific, bloody, brutal, physical dog collar match. I actually really thoroughly enjoyed that match. It was clearly the match of the night. I thought it was a really good match. It was just really, really violent. Those guys really took it to the next level. We saw the Ass Boys, the Gun Club, show up at the end of that match. They're going to be fighting FTR at some point. Probably going to be fighting the Briscoes as well. And in fact, they'll probably end up being a part of Ring of Honor because I feel like that's where an act like the Gun Club belongs. They're going to need tag teams over there in Ring of Honor. And the Gun Club really is not anywhere close to, the popularity of like the Acclaimed, for example, or any of the other like hugely successful tag teams in AEW. So maybe you put them in Ring of Honor, you have them build their brand a little bit, and then you call them up to main roster, which is kind of what I figured Ring of Honor was going to be in the first place, a place where other acts can build their brands and they get that big call up, similar to how NXT, well, still is, because they still do call-ups. The first match on the actual card, Blake Christian and AR Fox defeated Los Faction Ingobernables. It was weird, though, because I don't think anybody thinks that was supposed to happen. AR Fox dropped a 450 senton onto Dralistico, and then it looked like Dralistico was trying to kick out. Just he did too late, and then the ref had already counted 3, and then they just called the match. And then right afterwards, Roosh, Jose, Preston Vance, and Dralistico all attacked Christian and Fox, and then and also the ref. So they're all like suspended now, apparently. But yeah, that was kind of weird. Crowd seemed so confused. They were chanting at the ref, "You fucked up," because he wasn't supposed to count to 3, according to the crowd. I don't know. Maybe that was supposed to be exactly what happened. Who knows? Athena was able to beat Mercedes Martinez for that Ring of Honor Women's Championship. Makes me very happy. I'm a huge Athena fan. I think she's one of the best wrestlers on the planet. Yeah, I thought this was a good match. Of course, she's a bad guy now, so she was doing all sorts of bad guy stuff, taking the turnbuckle off, trying to send Mercedes Martinez into that. But in the end, it was an O-face that got the job done. And Athena's your new Ring of Honor Women's Champion. I think that's actually a really cool move heading into this new Honor Club era, new/old Honor Club era, for Athena to be Ring of Honor Women's Champion. Swerve in Our Glory beat Shane Taylor Promotions. More dissent within Swerve in Our Glory. Why are they still a tag team? They just can't quit each other, man. However, in this match, Swerve did in fact quit on Keith Lee. He left the match when it looked like Keith Lee was about to lose this. However, Shane Taylor Promotions couldn't keep it together, and Keith Lee was able to capitalize. He hit his finish there on J.D. Griffey and picked up the win. So Swerve kind of looks like a jerk for walking out, and Keith Lee getting that win there. The Embassy beat Dalton Castle and the boys for those Ring of Honor 6-man titles. That's a bummer to me because I love Dalton Castle, man. I think he is absolutely hilarious. I hope this guy gets up to main roster, regular AEW programming, because he's terrific. Something tells me he's going to stay in Ring of Honor, though. But no, this match was a lot of fun just because Dalton Castle's so goofy. But yeah, no, Dalton Castle and boys no longer 6-man tag team champions. Wheeler Yuta defeated Daniel Garcia for the Pure title. I'll be honest with you, I really wasn't into this match that much. Daniel Garcia was just being too much of a heel, preening to the crowd and whatnot. It felt like a very sports entertainment Pure Rules match, which is a combo that just really doesn't work. Wheeler Yuta got the win here with a bunch of elbows to Daniel Garcia's head, picks up the Pure title. Again, I think that this might be the kind of thing where I don't know that Daniel Garcia would have lost this had they got an actual TV deal. The Briscoes beat FTR. I talked about that match already. Terrific match, super bloody, dog collar match. Man, people being superplexed on chairs. At one point, I think, what was it, Mark Briscoe? Yeah, I think it was Mark Briscoe got chucked from like the top turnbuckle all the way down to the floor onto some chairs. Oh boy, this was terrific stuff. But yeah, the Briscoes ended up winning, and it was just bloody. It was super bloody. It was awesome stuff. Samoa Joe had obliterated Juice Robinson to retain his Ring of Honor Television Championship. I think they're doing this thing to build up Samoa Joe as sort of making that Ring of Honor Television Championship on par with the Ring of Honor World title. So they're just making Samoa Joe annihilate everybody, and this was no different. Juice Robinson did not get a lot of offense in here. A little bit, but not even close. I mean, it wasn't really what we saw with Darby Allin on Dynamite, but it was getting there. Samoa Joe beat Juice Robinson with a muscle buster here in the end to retain his title. And then in the end, Claudio Castagnoli defeated Chris Jericho via the swing. I had never seen this before. Jericho tapped out to the swing, which I kind of like. I mean, honestly, it's Claudio's most popular move. It should have people tap out. Yeah, he was in, I think, like in the 30s when it comes to the number of swings he had given him. And then Jericho just starts tapping up while he's swinging. And so that's how he loses his Ring of Honor championship. Again, this is the kind of thing I kind of feel like if they were going to get that actual TV deal, I think Chris Jericho probably would have retained here, and they would have done a bit where Claudio Castagnoli was part of the Jericho Appreciation Society. I just sort of had that feeling. I could be wrong about that. But anyways, that was Final Battle. I thought it was a good show. I thought it was worth watching, and I'm glad I did. and I'd recommend it. I mean, you can wait 90 days and it'll be on Honor Club, $10 a month, or you can just watch right now for like 40. So, yeah, anyways, Ring of Honor. What do you guys want to see from Ring of Honor? Let me know in the comments below. Are you guys going to get Honor Club? Did you get Honor Club in the first place? I had it, never watched it. I think I loaded it up once. I will say this, though. The crowd, a lot better than previous Ring of Honor crowds. The last couple of years of Ring of Honor, you'd watch those crowds and they'd just be dead. Well, this crowd was actually pretty into the show, so that was good to see. So, yeah, hopefully, look, Ring of Honor is just another place for people to make money wrestling, and that's what I like to see. So, yeah, good for them. Hopefully, they'll succeed on Honor Club, and they'll get a TV deal if that's what Tony Khan wants. That's going to do it for the show today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Check out this video here. Till next time, we'll see you over there.